Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to another video. This is gonna be my 13th video. Actually, it's gonna be my 14th video, not 13th, because I started counting at 0. So technically, this is my 14th video. It is week 13 though, which means I am now past the halfway point. So I am now halfway into learning data science. Now, do I feel halfway? I feel like I've definitely done a lot in these last 13 weeks because I feel like, and this is going to also come into a lot of what I'm going to do next. I've discovered that I might be ready to do my first ever technical analysis. So I would be doing a exploratory data analysis, which is an EDA, and I think I'm going to do it next week. I won't tell you what it's on, but I'm going to do it next week or the week following that. But I think I'm ready for my first ever project. Data science starts off with, EDA, but then it moves on to bigger, better things like machine learning and AI. But the important thing is that EDA is the first step, and here I am taking the first step, and I'm going to record it and you guys will be able to follow along into the video of what I did this week. As always, I'm going to give you the rundown, the short version, and then you can watch the rest of the video later where I go into depth, but if not, you're free to leave. This week I did chapter 9 in the Think Stats book, and I was supposed to do chapter 9 and 10 and do Khan Academy, and I wasn't able to do that. I only did chapter 9, and then I did a little bit of Python practice because I felt like I hadn't been doing any programming, so I felt like I needed a little bit. So that was the short version of what I did this week. Now let's go more in depth into everything. So chapter 9 in Think Stats was about hypothesis and hypothesis testing. So this is how everyone knows about the p-values and testing it to see if it's statistically significant or not. Everyone that's taken stats at least once knows about these things. It was a good refresher and good to learn how to do it with Python. You can either do a class or you can do a functions to help you test the hypothesis. Now, to go a little bit more in depth of what that means, you basically have a null hypothesis that you're testing. After exploring the data a little bit, you have some hunches, and so you now have to test those hunches with an experiment. Now, the funny thing here is that you actually do the contrary hypothesis. So you don't say, I think that this is statistically significant, and you test that. No, instead, what you do is you get a null hypothesis. So you say that it's not statistically significant, and you test to see if you're wrong. So you test to see if your null hypothesis, the hypothesis that's the contrary thing to what you actually want to know, and you get your answer that way. It's almost like in law how you always say that someone is innocent until proven guilty. This is kind of the same idea, and it is very necessary for us to do in stats. So that's using null hypothesis, and then after you do the calculations with that, you end up getting a p-value, and you can use that p-value against whatever statistically significant test you want to take. Usually it's 5%, but it could be anywhere from 1 to 10%, depending on really what you're testing and how accurate you want to be. Anything more than 5 though is probably just by coincidence, but there might be something there. Anything more than 10 is purely random, there's nothing there. And then anything under 5 is like, okay, now we've got something going on here, and the hypothesis is correct. So that was a little rundown. I learned a lot about in chapter 9, that is about the different tests you can do, or like different hypotheses you can make up. You have the one-sided, you have the two-sided, you can do it with mean, you can do it with the standard deviation, you can do it with just so many things. But the ultimate the ultimate lesson here is you only do this after you look at your data. So that way you have the background knowledge to really make the right hypothesis, because that's what's really important, is the hypothesis. So that is chapter 9. That's all I did this week. I did a little bit of Code Wars. I talked about Code Wars before, or at least I talked about Check.io. They're just puzzles, Python puzzles, or Python, little problems you can do for fun. They're usually community based, so sometimes you find some answers, or at least some questions that you just can't solve. But I just go through the trusted, the most popular ones on Code Wars, and I do the easiest level just to make sure that I'm, up to date with Python and not forgetting it. But other than that, that was the week. I didn't do any Khan Academy stats. I changed up my morning routine, and that's where I usually did my Khan Academy stats, and I haven't done it this week. I'm gonna have to fix up my morning routine in order to make time for that. But I replaced that time with some meditating, so I kind of wasn't able. I did a little bit, I did like 30 minutes a couple days, but not the hour a day that I wanted. So that is it this week. Yes, I was a little scattered brain. It was very difficult to concentrate on the book, and so I did a little bit of what I could, and I moved on. It wasn't the greatest week, but hey, at least I got something done. I only got a couple chapters left in this book, which is exciting, and yeah, halfway done. This is the halfway point. See if I can do a little bit of EDA, maybe do some machine learning course next, and start hurrying up, because we're almost there. The challenge is almost done, and can't wait to see where that gets us. So yeah, so if you got any comments, leave them down below. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe. If you want to like, you can like. So that's it. Thanks for joining me, and see you next time. Peace.